Everybody,
I'm a rapper, I'm not a poet. Poet, I'm not a rapper. Guess it's opposite there, cause you niggas just got it backwards. Got me sick to my stomach. Go up on my lantern. New trio is Frio, the most terrible tandem. Deliver shock value, but no, not Timberlanding. Critical observation alerting you ambulances. Clap on and clap off. Rap on and rap off. Hard times for hard rhymes, that concrete, that asphalt. If I did look twice, I guess that's her asphalt. May I assist you and score, get my pass out. Matter of fact, it's what you need. Need some rest, you just fatigue. See, technically I'm filing Mrs. Wallace, I'm Rashid. Know this beat is a banger, have no reason for anger. If I'm slightly deterred, you know I'm giving the finger. I'm a savage like Corey, but not in need of Topanga. Right like 90 degrees, you in the need of an angle.
Welcome to the FREELUNCH podcast. This is your boy Tight, and I got my man BG with me. What's going on, BGeezy?
Somebody done told you wrong. What's happening there, FREELUNCH podcast? We back.
What are you talking about?
We back and we ain't going nowhere.
But what is you talking about? Somebody done told you wrong.
Somebody told you wrong. Somebody said that this thing ain't the real deal. They say we faking and flying, and I'm telling you, we here to stay.
Yeah, we ain't going nowhere, man.
Nowhere.
I don't know, man. But today's topic gonna be kind of on a more serious, more somber note. Just given today's topic and the recent news from the news in Ferguson. So really just want to really jump right into it. But before we get started, we breaking grounds again, my friend.
More ground. We got more guests, more of the family here with us to give additional perspective on some of these issues that's affecting our world.
All right, so I'm not going to bring them in. I'm going to let you bring them in. How about that?
Well, I'm going to bring them in, close family member, sitting to my right, very special person, longtime listener, contributor, person that has really bought into the FREELUNCH movement and is here today to share some perspective and some of her thoughts on the issue that we're going to talk about today. So I'd like to welcome Trish to the show.
Welcome to the show. How you?
Welcome to the show. Round of applause.
Thank you.
And then we got my brother from another mother. We've been running for a long time, causing a lot of havoc. We grew up. Now we're gonna give some grown man talk today. So I got my boy C. Frank Campbell. He wants you to hit him up at C. Frank Campbell on Instagram. So what's up, my brother? How you feeling?
Man, what's up, fellas? Man, I'm glad to be here with the boys. We out here. What's up, fam? What's up, world? It's C. Frank Campbell coming to you for the first time worldwide. So, hey, we here to get this thing kicked off, talk about Ferguson, talk about social action, man. So let's do it.
He a rapper now, dog. He a rapper. You hearing? Trish, say something, Trish. Say you got something you want to add about this whole thing. How you feel? How's life treating you?
Wait.
Uh-oh.
Now, we got to let Tight do his thing.
You ain't never got to worry about that. You ain't never got to worry about that.
You do not have to worry about that. I'm ready. But, I mean, can you let the people know that you're here? Can you say something?
Hello, people. This is Tresha. I am here, and we're actually recording at my house.
Okay. But dog.
Let it be known where we at. Location.
We move it around. We move it around.
So I actually like to call this one our first round table, because when you have this is going to be more of a discussion versus a. I mean, that's what we do each and every week, but I mean, we got more voices and we got more opinions. So really, just try to get a collective group response. And even for today's topic, I know BG and C. Frank Campbell, which is I'm really tripping.
Man, call me C. Campbell, man.
I'm really tripping on this C. Frank Campbell, but man,
that's my social media outlet. Type, call me C. Campbell. Let's talk like the boys, man.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely gonna do that because this C. Frank Campbell. we kind of been going back and forth all day on today's topic. So I'm really interested and intrigued by the topic, and really interested in getting everybody's opinion, including you, Trish. Um, really haven't had a lot of female correspondents, and that's kind of shocking to me, given that this is a hot topic that's going on across America, and really, got a text earlier. And BG, can I put you on the spot? But really got a topic earlier, just saying how there's been a lack of communication from a lot of our female audience. So interested in your conversation as well. But y'all know what time it is.
Yeah, we know what time it is. You got it. You got something good for us.
I do, because this is a serious topic, and I'm trying to be a little bit more serious about it. So I'm ready. Because right. even from the entire day, I kind of been, just sometimes you got to look to the hills from whence comes your help. And the message that's kind of been on my mind for the second half of the day has really just been something about that name Jesus, because sometimes you got to just call on him when you don't have an answer to any of the other situations, or you don't understand a certain situation. Sometimes you just got to call on that name Jesus. So the actual song or the vine that I'm gonna do today is really come from Tasha. What is it? Tasha Cobbs.
Tasha Cobbs.
Yeah. And it goes like this. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. To break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. And the reason I chose that one, because essentially we're going to talk about the Mike Brown situation, and we're going to talk about the Ferguson situation. But sometimes when you don't have an answer, and when you don't know the next direction to turn in, or the next direction to go, sometimes you just got to call on the name of Jesus. So that's kind of been the message and kind of been the tone that I've kind of been in for the past 24 hours or so. BG, what you think?
Yeah, man, it's that feeling of having your back up against the wall. I've been totally frustrated, I guess, over the last however 18 whatever hours it's been. It's just feeling that what else do you do? As Americans, we're here, and what the country was founded upon is you're promised certain things. Just by being an American citizen, you are entitled to certain rights and certain privileges, and you have a system that is supposedly designed to protect you. Mm-hmm. And if you're wrong, you have a system that is supposed to bring justice to the person that has wronged you. And so when something happens to you, or something happens to someone close to you, or just in your community, it happens and you feel like it's an unjust act, and then you don't even get a chance at allowing that system to do what it's supposed to do, or what it's designed, or what we've been told that it's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So after that happens, it's like, well, what else is there? If my rights have been violated, and nobody is willing, or the system does not do what it's supposed to do in terms of protecting my rights and bringing justice, what is a person to do? So, you have that level of just frustration and not knowing, not having any answers. And we've had this kind of happen to us time after time after time, and ended up with the same result. So totally frustrated, man. Totally frustrated, looking for answers, questioning myself. Like, what is my role? What can I do? What needs to change? Is even seeking change realistic?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about letting the system work and talking about things and having these discussions to change the system, but is that even a reality? So just having that feeling, man, that helpless kind of feeling all day. And I think I probably echo the voices of a lot of people on this particular day that feel very similarly to how I feel.
I guess for today's podcast, BG, you and I did a conversation around the value of the black man, and you can almost label this particular topic as part two, but really taking more of a deep dive into one of the topics that we kind of talked about during that particular episode. And so, I guess for today's perspective, really want to broaden the opinions and broaden the conversation with a larger audience, right? So what we want to do is it's kind of twofold for today. Is really number one, kind of get an initial reaction for both you, C. Campbell, and you also Trisha, get an initial reaction, and I mean, and including us, BG, you and I, really get an initial reaction from when you were watching CNN, MSNBC, or even Fox for those that watch that station. When you saw the prosecutor give his explanation as to why there was not why they were not going to indict Darren Wilson, and then secondly, for the second half of today's podcast, really want to just touch on what's next, if there is something to be handled next. So, for both you, Trisha, BG, and C. Campbell, what were your initial thoughts leading up to leading up to the verdict, and then also post the verdict?
So my initial thoughts was that this is bigger than just black versus white. I originally and initially saw this as more of profiling and falling into the stereotypes of what white America classifies as justified because they see certain black boys, and because it's mostly been men or younger guys, but they see it as justified because they're able to paint a picture of, a thug, someone who's had previous run-ins with the law, drugs were in his system, so to say. So it, in essence, kind of dehumanizes someone, and they don't see the person or the young man as another person who has rights and was entitled to live, to go on to achieve certain things. They just see it as, oh, this was another problem maker, and he's dead. Who cares?
I guess kind of my initial thoughts and reactions, like I said, when I first, turned on the TV last night, I guess I can maybe use the word numb a little bit, because I wasn't just overly outraged because, like I said, I didn't expect the decision to be any different. But it just kind of so much was running through my head in terms of just the system in America. I think somebody quoted W.B. Du Bois saying, a system can never protect those it was never built to or designed or built for. And so, it's you look at that, you look at the system, but I keep going back to, something I talk a lot about with my colleagues at work and other people in general, is that we have a problem with race in this country, but it's like the elephant in the room that nobody continues to not want to talk about. And that's the thing that continually just popped in my mind, is like, until we as a country begin to be honest about the conversation, be honest about the issues that we have from a systematic standpoint, from an economic standpoint, and how that affects, people of different backgrounds, different cultures, we're going to continue to go in this cyclical pattern where it continues to happen. But we have got to be, have the courage to actually have these conversations and talk about it. I mean, that's the thing that kept running through my mind, is that, we keep bumping our heads up against the same thing, but nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody really wants to be honest in the conversation.
And for me, I was anxious when I walked in and realized that they were going to give the indictment. I immediately got a feeling of anxiety, One part of that being, okay, today is the day. Here's another opportunity for the American justice system to stand up and say that it is fair, that it is built and designed for the protection of all of the people that we consider to be American citizens. But then on that other half, it's like, man, this is another opportunity for the same thing that we saw with Trayvon Martin. So you in that limbo type of frame of mind. But then on top of that is just the events that led up to that moment. So for some of you that were Dish Network subscribers, if you notice, for the past couple of weeks, all of the TNT or TBS, CNN affiliates were off of Dish. They couldn't get a contract together. But then on this particular day, was the day that they were back on the air. They were back a part of the whole Dish Network family. So now they're broadcasting this moment all day, and then it's like a lead up to a game or to a fight. We're gonna have the announcement, and I'm like, oh man, the game is in play. The game is in play. And then you have the governor. The governor has already made all of these other moves in terms of mobilizing the National Guard and getting them in place. And then they come out and make a speech, and they have him, and then they have two other officials. Two of them are black guys, and they're talking about peaceful demonstrations. We want everybody to be peaceful, and we don't need to have violence and destroying the city. I'm like, okay, this is not looking good. And then they revealed that the family wasn't contacted about a decision being made. They just said that the family found out like everybody else in the world. Family found out by way of the news. All of these things just don't line up when the process is done the right way. Mm-hmm. When it's done the right way, things are done in order. Paperwork, presentation is all in order. But when these things start coming out in the ragged manner, like they are, like the whole process has been since we even found out about that, you had to think that some strings are being pulled, and this is not going to go the way that I saw need for it to go. And then the actual prosecutor gets up and he makes his speech and he's choking up. I thought for a minute he was gonna fall out. That pressure and that choked up, like they got us again. This is even before he even makes a statement. Then he slid the actual decision in there and then started talking about all this other evidence. And I'm still waiting on the evidence that would suggest that this was not worthy of a trial. I didn't hear anything in there that definitely said that this didn't need to go to trial for further evaluation. All I heard was this side of these group of witnesses saw this other group of witnesses saw this. So we're still at a point of debate. So for me, that signals that we need to go to trial, allow both sides' lawyers to question and cross-examine, and let's try to get as close to the bottom of this as we can, but we didn't even get an opportunity to do that. So it was just a very raggedy process. It leaves a lot of questions in terms of what was going on in that back room, who knew what plays were in play to make sure that outcome came out the way that it came.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for me, not that it matters, but my initial reaction was I had totally forgot that they were gonna have a verdict, right?
Right.
It wasn't until I got home and turned on the TV and happenstance.
Yeah, me too.
To CNN and saw Anderson Cooper kind of doing his whole spiel, and I said, "Oh, well, let me watch this." I mean, keep in the back of my mind that I think if you had been following the Mike Brown case, you would have been aware, or you would have known, or you could have read by the context clues that it was not going to be that he wasn't going to go to trial. I mean, he wasn't going to be indicted. But I happened to watch it, more so for the entertainment purposes, for lack of better words. And I watched it, and then I went to bed because I had to get up and go to work in the morning.
Right.
I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised. But if you really want to know the truth, the one thing that bothered me that entire night, the one thing that bothered me, and it continues to bother me, it wasn't the verdict, because I kind of suspected that, right? And we can talk about why I suspected it, etc. But the one thing that bothered me was watching the coverage on CNN and just seeing Mark O'Malley as one of the guest panelists and experts surrounding the entire trial and leading up to the whole verdict or what have you. And just to see him, just the audacity. So this is the only thing that frustrated me, because I kind of it was kind of predetermined that Darren Wilson wasn't going to be indicted, but just the whole idea to have Mark O'Malley, the guy that represented George Zimmerman, as an expert, and for CNN to have him on the stand, I thought that was classless. And even today when I watch CNN, I kind of lost a lot of respect because, granted, he may be a great lawyer, but for a situation so close to Trayvon Martin, and with this being so similar, for them to have the audacity to have him as an expert panelist, I thought that was just flat out wrong.
Well, Ty, I say, I mean, that kind of stuck out to me too. I guess I don't have as big of an issue with him being on there, but I say it from a standpoint of how it's viewed. But I look at it too, man. You look at all these cable networks, he was on there for what? Shock value. He was on there to get ratings up, and that's all CNN put him up there for, because he is a controversial figure in this type of situation. That's why they put him on there. So, like I said, he didn't bother me because I'm like, okay, they're gonna do what they need to do to try to get the ratings. What really bothered me about not all of CNN's commentators, but a few of them, and some of them, in my opinion, some of the black commentators, and like I said, I could be prejudging. If I am, then I love to be proven wrong. But when the initial reaction started from the people, one of the things that bothered me initially was the descriptive words they used to start describing black folks. Now, it was true we had folks that was probably being ignorant and doing things, destroying property that had nothing to do with the verdict or the solution. But the minute that the protest started, they went to our black commentators, and the words you heard were things like violence, destruction of property, smell of marijuana in the air. And it's like you had black folks feeding the stereotype that the majority of the world put on us and label us, because that's all they get fed by the media, by images in real life. And it's like, and like somebody said, unless you've taken yourself out to actually talk to somebody of a different culture, different race, and all you have grown up seeing of those type of words and descriptive symbols being described by people, that's all you're going to think. And to have black commentators, black reporters, those are the first things they start to say after the verdict is read. I really got sick to my stomach on that. I mean, that just did something to me.
The question though, why did you get sticky if they was only describing what they saw?
I mean, I get it, but think about it too, is they weren't also showing the people who were protesting, and the people who were doing things the right way. They were only showing one side of the story at that point, because guess what? They're trying to get ratings. But my thing is, you had many people out there that were doing the right things, people that were actually standing by and trying to stop people from doing those things, but all you saw, but those are the first things that you're going to see. And I say, I can't get mad at them for describing what they saw, but that should not be the first thing that you put out there when you're describing the initial reaction, in my opinion.
So I kind of agree with BG as far as I didn't hear anything in the testimony or in the prosecutor's statement that this should not have gone to trial, right? So BG, I kind of agree with you on that, but at the same time, Charles, to your question, your point, and I asked the group, how should they have described it? Because that's what we saw on TV. That's what was happening, right? That's what is going to draw the attention of the of that's what kept you watching and kept you entertained. Because at the end of the day, I think that this goes back to the conversation we had about expectation. The expectation of a news carrier, CNN, MSNBC, is to keep you watching and keep you entertained. So why would you expect them to show the peaceful protesters when that's not what's going to keep you watching?
I mean, I get you. I mean, and I don't disagree with the point entirely, but I guess my thing was just yeah, that's what they saw and that's entertainment. But the same thing is like you had other things that you could report as well, and I saw other reporters trying to do that. But of course, like you said, that's what's going to get you ready, this and that. But I just think you just got to be, I say like Chris Cuomo, for instance, not a black man, but I thought had the most honest reports out of anybody on any network today. I mean, he was actually trying to point out the fairness. He was actually calling some of his own colleagues to the carpet on the language they were using because he was like, And so I'm just, it just like there are people that can pull both sides of it. But my thing is, man, it just when it's our own people, man, sometimes it just make you feel some type of way. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Trisha, what you want to add to it?
So look, this is my thing, and this has been my thing since day one. This again doesn't come down, in my opinion, to black versus white. It comes down to how white people want to portray black people. And from day one, not only with this case, but also with Trayvon Martin, it is justified, it is deserved because the media and the good old boy system, I can't even say white people because there's some white people who also disagree with, the outcome of the trial, but the good old boy system loves to paint young black boys as violent, aggressive, previous run-ins with the law. To me, that's the issue that all of this is about. And the only way I see it being fixed is for the more affluent black people to go back and basically go back into the neighborhoods and educate younger black boys and mentor them on how to act. Because when you feed into the officer said, Mike Brown was charging him and he felt threatened for his life. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. I really don't know what's in his mind. But I do believe that there's a system that's programmed certain white people into believing that. So when you act a certain way, and I'm not saying his actions justified his death, but when you act a certain way and then there's a belief in your opponent's mind that you're already aggressive, you're a threat, you're however big you want to be, but they feel justified in basically killing you. So to me, the bigger issue with all of this is going back and educating the young black boys and young black men on how to better carry yourself so that you're not a target. Because right now, the bottom line is a lot of young black men are walking targets. And at any point in time, you could be gunned down and shot, and the media is going to justify it through some past action.
BG, I know you got a comment, but can I get a quick yes or no from each of y'all? Should Darren Wilson have been indicted? Yes or no?
Yes.
I would say it needs to be more investigation, but I think that there should have been some legal action taken. Yes.
Shit, you ain't even got to ask me. Yes, that's off the rip. Yes.
Okay. And I agree. I say yes. I just wanted to say that before to know where everyone stood. BG, I mean, I know you got some comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, let's just face it. I mean, the indictment is just the charge of let's take it to trial. We take it to trial, like I say, we argue it out, and then we let a jury decide if he's guilty or not guilty on whatever charge we decide on. I think you owe that when there's so many questions and everything we get is he say, she say, and then it's been so. The one thing, the problem that I had from the beginning though, is that there were a lot of witnesses talking to the media before they even made a decision on what they were going to do. You had people that were standing on there just giving interviews to the press without even having a lawyer present and all those type of things. And a lot of those statements that were put out at that moment in time was the stuff that evidently made it into the actual official report that was presented to the grand jury. So that was the first thing. I'm like, somebody needs to go and talk to these people and quarantine these witnesses. Don't let them just be out there just talking on their own accord, because they're going to say something and then it's going to be used against them. So then that was early. Mm-hmm. But to go with what they were saying, one of the things that I didn't like about it was that we continually get commercialized for our pain. People are profiting off of the pain that we're experiencing in the community. What's
an example?
Well, just an example of, the news coverage and how the news coverage was so slanted. Like Charles and Tricia was saying, news coverage was so slanted that they created a picture. They demonized Michael Brown, and they demonized all of the people that were down there in the stance of protest. Everybody that was down there protesting was not looting, was not setting buildings ablaze. There were other people that were there peacefully demonstrating. So what we're asking for is that if you're going to paint a picture, paint a global picture. Give us all phases. The KKK was down there. Did y'all see any pictures of the KKK?
Nope.
No.
The Ku Klux Klan was there. There were white people that were there as well. Mm-hmm. There were white hate groups that were down there as well, but you didn't get any of that. You've got only images, the same recurring images. They didn't move it around. They kept showing the liquor store. Mm-hmm. They kept showing the same things to paint a picture. And then now we've got a future presentation of, oh, that's what black people do. They're so animalistic. But these people are in a moment of frustration, fear, and despair. They're in the same situation that Darren Wilson was supposedly in when he was unloading all those bullets into those kids. Now, how can we just, based off of the media slant, based off of what witnesses supposedly or have alleged that they saw, we give him a pass without even having any real details, or any confirmation? We give him a pass, and then when everybody else responds out of an emotion or place, then they just wrong. That's not real. When the San Francisco Giants won the World Series, they rioted in San Francisco. They was turning cars over. They was destroying stuff. They was setting blazes after the team won the World Series. Mm-hmm. And I bet you half of our audience don't even know that.
Didn't they do it a couple of years ago?
They do it every time.
Was it Toronto?
They do it in Canada every time after they win the Stanley Cup in hockey. Mm-hmm. But that's just a part of the nature of the sport when your players win. Right. But when it comes down to something real, to where we beating on your door, we got a situation going on. Let's say, well, we got to call the police. You call the police. Let's go to court. I got a problem. You go to court, and then they say, well, your stuff ain't good enough for us to even have a trial about. What you got to expect that somebody gonna pop off.
So I can go on record and say I disagree with all three of y'all.
Go right ahead, Ty.
And the reason I disagree with all three of you all is because like I mentioned earlier, I think it goes back to expectation of the media and accountability that you placed on them. And I think we forget that the media, or watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox, is no different than watching ABC Scandal, Blackish, or How to Get Away with Murder, or whatever you watch, Sports Center. It's all entertainment purposes only. And I think the issue, or the expectation, is for the media to show a unbiased perspective. And that's not their role. Their role is to keep you watching, because C. Campbell, Tricia, BG, would you continue to watch if you saw some peaceful protesters? No, you wouldn't continue to watch, and to tell me that you would.
Well, Ty,
let me finish. To tell me that you would be a false statement. So to sit up here and say that you are mad at the media coverage, I 100% disagree. because that's not the role of the media. It's not. It's not the role. I mean, you watch just like you watch Blackish, or I like to watch Blackish on Wednesday, and I like to watch Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder on Thursday. I'm about to cut Scandal out my life, and How to Get Away with Murder. This the last season, and we can do a show on why. But for entertainment purposes only, that's what it is. So,
I guess my thing is, it's not my. I don't have any other expectation, I guess, just from what you're saying. I guess my thing is it wasn't all the media. It was some of the way that some of the things were presented by certain people in the media. And my thing is, from the media standpoint, not my expectations, but it's like, all right, I've been looking at this not just from a local perspective, not from a U.S. perspective, but also from a global perspective. I've checked international papers, I've checked periodicals, I've checked BBC News. I've watched, news coverage from Japan and Singapore today as well, and China. And to look at it from that standpoint, it's, yes, they show a lot of the violence, but their take on it is totally different from what we have in America. But my other thing, my real point is, we watched all that last night. You saw all that perspective. Then it takes you, almost 15 hours. But yes, this afternoon I was just as glued to the TV when they had the clergy members, when they had the press conference with the mayor, when they had people doing peaceful things and talking intelligently. I was just as engaged as I was last night. But my thing is, it shouldn't take you that long to get with those people, but only show one side of the story. That's just all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
You was engaged because of the previous night. You wasn't engaged because of what they were saying at that particular moment. That's my point. I think that we are being, in regards to the media, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, because I do want to go to one more thing. Trisha, I know you got a comment, so I'm gonna let you say your comment, but I do want to go to one more topic that kind of raised my eyebrow, and that really was around President Obama's comments following the non-indictment or what have you. So I do want to get BG's perspective, since I know from him President Obama is half black, or he black president,
quote unquote.
Yeah, quote unquote. So no, he ain't do nothing to change that either.
I'm sorry, Trisha. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is I wasn't upset with the media, because to me, the media is a reflection of what certain people actually feel. I'll never forget during Katrina, when I saw the looting happen on TV, and I was with a white coworker of mine. We were both watching the news at the same time during work. And I was like, oh my gosh, why are they looting? And he, as a white man, said, Trisha, they're animals. Like, as if he couldn't understand why I didn't understand this. So to me, it's not the media that I'm upset with. This is a mentality among certain people that certain other people who are of a color to their skin are less than human. And that's the bigger issue. It's not really the media, it's how people feel in society.
But do you call that, and we kind of talked about this earlier, BG, myself, and Charles, do you think that's racism?
I think that is, okay, let me say this. I think it's racism from my perspective. However, I don't know what it's like to grow up white. I don't know what it's like to not, let me give you an example. In my job, I deal with white doctors all the time. When I have a white coworker who has to call on a black doctor, they say, Trisha, can you go with me to the office? As if they're scared to go by themselves. So I think it's more so that certain people have been in a position where they've always been superior. So it's hard for them to really relate to another person's perspective.
Okay. And so what I told BG and C. Campbell was that I think racism is an ideology, and I don't think this has anything to do with racism. I think this is 100% has something to do with economics and education. But before we even get into that, I mean, what did you want to get in that, BG?
Well, I was just going to say something quick. It's economics. It's economics powered by racism. The people that have
racism. I disagree.
No, you got to listen to what I'm saying. It's economics. You basically only have those that have and those that don't have. And the way that we like to look at it is that, okay, you've got some power players at the top that are of Caucasian descent. What they do is they use race. They infuse race into all of these things to control the Caucasian people that don't have as much, that really ain't in the same economic class with them, but they use racism and embed it in those people's minds to keep them mad at black people. And those people that don't have the economic status use racism to assimilate with the white people that do have the status. So racism is the common ground for a Caucasian person that has and a Caucasian person that does not have, if that makes sense to you. So it's economics at the end of the day, but it's powered by racism, because if I can bring race into it and I can say that all black people are incompetent or all black people are criminal, then everybody that buys into that is going to make sure that they don't let any black people into any establishment that they have. So it's economics as powered by the ideology of race, because race is the surface level dividing factor. It's the dividing factor that everybody can hide behind because you can team up. But the real thing that people sometimes are oblivious to is the economic divide, because there are white people and black people that are struggling and are in the same economic situation. But even though they're in that same economic situation, because of race, there are a lot of white people and black people that can't get along.
See, during our conversation today, we kind of went back and forth, and I do want to get your perspective, C. Campbell. But I think that if we sit here and try to, I think C. Campbell mentioned earlier in his opening statement something around, he was talking to his friends and there was racism or something. And the truth be told, I think that to consider something racism is again just an ideology that you will never conquer. I think that if you say an issue is economic based or education based, those are two tangible goals that you can strive towards to improve, regardless of color.
But you got to know, in order to work in a cooperative, you got to know what you're working against. If it's somebody that is not a racist, if it's somebody that is not living by a racism ideology, you can work with that person on economic means purely. So if it's a white guy that's not racist minded and I'm a black guy not racist minded, and we can sit down at the table and just talk dollars and cents, we can do something collectively economically. But if it's a white guy that is living under a racist ideology, he ain't gonna talk to me on economics first. He gonna keep me out the business because he's threatened by the fact that I might get more than what he has.
But see, you missing the point.
No, I'm not. You got to acknowledge that racism. You got to acknowledge that racism is. You can acknowledge it as an ideology, but it's there. Now, you don't try to combat it. You don't try to change anybody's mind, but it's good for me to know where this other person is coming from so that I can maneuver around them.
We got two guests. What y'all think?
I don't think it's all racism now. I do think that, I know racism exists to some level, and I know there are certain people who are diehard racists, or maybe preserving their culture. I don't know, whatever they want to call it. But I mean, I think back to my coworker who called the people in New Orleans animals right in front of me. Now, I don't perceive him as racist, so I think it's more of a perspective that he has, and maybe it's because he obviously, as a white person, probably didn't grow up around black people, don't understand black people. But I don't think he's a racist. I think it's a lack of understanding because you're not around a different culture.
Charles, what you think?
How much time we got, man?
Go ahead. We got all the time you need.
But time limit today. This is a round table.
Nah, I'm just, I look at it, from my personal perspective, but also me being in the field of higher education. These are topics that I consistently have, just dealing with working with the the population students I work with on a daily basis. These are conversations I have, pretty much on a weekly basis with both, what people that are considered to be underrepresented and also people that are considered in the majority. My first take on it is kind of like Trish pointed out, is it's not always about racism, because there's also an issue where sometimes it's just ignorance. And I think sometimes people get taken back because when people that don't understand ask questions, people take it as a racist tone, but it's not always racist. And that's a balance that I play a balancing act necessarily every day, because you have to tell people sometimes you have to read between the lines and see the person for a person to understand their perspective. But also, working where I do, there are situations that are just, for the lack of a better term, they're racist. And you have to also be prepared to address those things. When it comes to economics, I think there's disparity there, and there are things that we can combat. And I think there are problems that can be solved once we close that gap in terms of economic ability, economic power, and also education. There are different things we can do to close those gaps. But when race is still a factor in that, no matter sometimes how high you go, how much money you make, how much wealth you can accumulate, there are still certain circles that you won't be a part of. And that's just a fact of it. It's like, I had a conversation with a colleague and a friend today. When you look at the civil rights movement, that did a lot to propel this country forward, to give people an equal footing and opportunity to be able to get inside circles that we weren't afforded to because laws kept us out of it. It took laws to change it. But at the same time, like you said, the ideology, but also sometimes just the viewpoint of people, even though it's okay, not everybody's equal, there's still in your mindset where it was out front. Now, to a degree, a lot of it's hidden. A lot of it is not going to be talked about in front of your face. So it's like you still have to fight those same things, but you just don't know where it's coming from all the time. So I think, like I said, in this country, it's like we got to start really talking about this conversation, because, like I said, okay, yeah, you cool. We can go to school together. We can work together. We can be on the same level, the same board, this and that and the other. But, man, I don't know about us going to church together all the time. We just not getting to a point where we got these, non-denominational churches and things, but still, there's certain things you don't see a whole lot of people congregated because we can't go to church together. God forbid you bring somebody home to the other race. That's a whole other conversation you got to get into, because, hey, hold on now. You put in the envelope. So I think there are still things, like I say, in this country that we're not going to move past until we start being honest about the conversations. Like I was talking about on the text message today with us, and Trish and I were talking about, it's like I look at my experience in South Africa. That's been, 11 years ago now. Being a student at the time at Auburn still, being from, a small town in North Alabama, and going to a different environment is totally out of my comfort zone. Even though South Africa had to play catch up in a shorter amount of time to catch up with the rest of the world in terms of equality and bringing people along and bringing their country back. Not saying that South Africa is economically, advanced in America, is not. There's still some things they still got to do. But what I felt in that country is that because they had to, but people were more comfortable having that conversation about race, how it affected their country, how they're trying to get out of it, than we still cannot have sometimes in America right now. People just still do not want to talk about the elephant in the front table, because some people flat out don't want to admit it exists. Some people flat out just don't want to address it, and those are the things, like I said, that's why we're sitting on, like people say, you sit on the powder keg of emotion right now with people across this country. That's why you saw some of the raw emotion in Ferguson. Not that I condone that violence, but that's why you saw that raw emotion. That's why you still see it happen with Trayvon, with Jordan Davis, the young man that got killed in North Carolina because he was in an accident. That's why this country is still sitting on a pressure cooker when it comes to race, because we don't want to address it. We just don't want to address it. And that's just my take on it.
BG.
Yo. Yeah.
What were your thoughts on President Obama's comments following the
talk, man?
Huh?
I told BG talk, man.
He egging me on. He want me to say something else.
I'm in the church, not talk, man.
Controversial. I just don't think that he spoke to the. He was saying it's the same thing that everybody else was saying. In terms of don't do this. We gotta, change the system and all those type of things. So he really wasn't. What he was saying was not connecting with the people hurting the most. People that were hurting the most were not hearing that. I don't think they were taking that in because it just didn't embody what they were feeling at the moment. And like I always say, I mean, he's in a role where he can't do that. But for me, I just basically tapped out because I already knew what it was going to be. And I knew that it wasn't going to do anything in terms of, it was going to do something to make other people feel better in terms of giving the speech to kind of guarantee that no violence would take place that night and all that type of stuff. But as a frustrated person, it really wasn't for those people. And so I really didn't get anything out of it.
What should he have said?
Well, I mean, I can't say what he should have said. I mean, he said what he could say in the thing of the presidency. My thing for all those guys would have just been up there to give a scripture, say something along the lines of vengeance is mine, thus said the Lord, and just walked off the stage. And everybody just be feeling like, what did that mean? So for me, it would have been, if I was in that position to where I got to be politically correct, but I'm really not feeling the mood or what I'm doing right now, I'm just going to say something subliminal, one word, and sit down, because I'm really not expressing. For me, I really would not be expressing honestly what I felt at that moment. So I just would have said something that you can't go wrong with, a Bible verse, a scripture, a poem, or something like that, and then just say, y'all have a good night. God bless America.
Vengeance is mine.
Said
it's not subliminal.
Well, it's in the Lord's hand and what you be saying. So whoever did wrong or whatever, the Lord gonna handle it. So let him handle it, and me take myself out of there. It's how I felt about it. So that's my answer to that.
Any more thoughts, comments?
I don't agree totally with that. I just felt like I said, President Obama, I think what a lot of people forget, at times, and when this man is president of the entire country, not just a whole bunch of people. That doesn't mean he doesn't identify with us, doesn't identify with his culture and his ethnicity. But it's like, just to go off and just go off.
So what's gonna happen? So let's just say there's a day that we have a Tea Party representative that run for president and he win the presidency. Is he gonna speak to the Tea Party or is he gonna speak to all of America?
I mean,
that's what President Bush did.
Okay, well that's what I'm saying. I'm waiting on that day.
I just think
This is the point right here. This is why most people. I thought President Bush was a leader. I'm not gonna say he was a good president, but he was a leader. You know why? Because regardless of anybody else's opinion, he had his own opinion, but that opinion was aligned to his base.
And that's what I want. That's what I want. Now that's not what you want. Yes, I do. I think we do that.
For President Obama to speak to 12% of the nation.
I want President Obama to speak to righteous people, man. I want President Obama to speak to humans. I want President Obama to speak to the middle class. We all in the same situation. We all dealing with the same thing. But don't just be all in the middle ground and you just speaking to this section that's putting this pressure because they want things to stay the same. Speak to the real people. That's all I'm asking for. And that because that's your base. Speak to the youth. Why are kids constantly having to spend more and more and more money to go to college, and a degree is worth less and less and less? Speak to them people. Don't just get up.
He spoke.
Well, he ain't speaking because he ain't speaking loud enough because
if you go to the Peace Corps, to the Army, you go to school for free. What you do?
You're right, dog.
But
I'm just saying what my expectation is. You said it best. Speaking to your base, speaking to your core. Speak to them folks and forget about everybody else. I think righteous people that are really committed to America and the principles of America as written on those pieces of paper, we want that.
I mean, I just say it's one thing. I just felt like he did speak to our people. It was a short line, but like he said these people ain't mad for no reason. We need to look at that.
That should have been that statement. That should have been that statement. He should have walked off.
No, because
he should have said that right
then
there.
he'll be blamed for inciting a riot.
Ain't no wrong with
the
that.
president
Man, you got
incited
2
the
years.
riot.
That's what he should have said. He should have said that one statement right there. The people ain't mad. They not mad for no reason and walk off. Because that's the truth. That's true. That is true. Those people are not acting out for no reason. And that's truth enough. And walk off the stage. But that be me.
Well, we not at a James Brown concert.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Drop the mic.
Yeah, that's what I want, man. But
James Brown, it got to be funky. We not at
you gonna do it all the way. Yeah.
What's next, man? We talked a lot about President Obama. We talked about racism and economics and education. We agree to disagree on some of these topics. Well, I give my first opinion, and I'll let the group say whatever they want to say, and then actually anything that you want to get off your chest, feel free to get off your chest. But I was on the Instagram today, and I saw the boycott Black Friday and all of these different boycotting stances because of the non-indictment of Darren Wilson, and me personally, I didn't understand it, because to sit up here and say you're gonna boycott Black Friday the day that you got the best deals, and on top of the best deals,
you fooling, boy.
oh shit, that's the best day of the day. That's the best deals of the whole year. And y'all wanting to boycott the best deal and talking about don't buy nothing, then you gonna go out there on Saturday to buy something?
It's the whole week. It's the whole weekend, man.
Well, I'm not for that, because I feel like if you want to, first off, what is boycotting Black Friday gonna do to Ferguson? I think the message that's trying to be sent is to the city of Ferguson and not to the United States, because boycotting Black Friday is only going to make the economic situation in the United States even worse. When the economist goes out there and he evaluates how the economy is doing, a lot of the time they use metrics from Black Friday to determine how much the American citizen is going out to purchase during that period. So to sit up here and say you're not going to vote on Black Friday, you're going to boycott the Black Friday, for what? If you want to boycott somebody, boycott Subway at Ferguson. How about, shout out to Subway.
Subway at Ferguson.
I didn't mean oh, y'all lie intentionally, but boycott one of the stores in Ferguson. Don't boycott the state of Missouri. Don't boycott Black Friday. What we boycott Black Friday for? I'm not boycotting Black Friday because I'm going to go buy some. So,
one of these free lunch podcasts is gonna be mad at you for that.
That's fine. That's just like they were mad at you for President being half black. But I'm not boycotting Black Friday, and we can put this out on Thursday. They call that the Great Thursday, and if we can edit this one and have it available for Great Thursday, you can tell them on Great Thursday I'm gonna be at Old Navy at 4 and Macy's at 6, and then on Black Friday I'm gonna be wherever the deal is, because I'm not boycotting the Black Friday because it don't make no sense. Now, if you want to boycott Ferguson.
We've been boycotting Ferguson, though. I ain't never been to Ferguson. I hadn't planned on it either.
Well, I'm just saying as a whole. As a whole, it's not even making no sense, because if you're gonna boycott Black Friday, all that's gonna do is the economy gonna say the economy not turning around, and then it's just gonna be more concern in the nation about how folks didn't go out and buy on Black Friday, and it's gonna be more concern, in my opinion. And I'm not an economist, and I don't have all the answers. And I'm pretty sure somebody can pull out a metric to show me I'm wrong. But but my logic and my common sense tell me it don't make no sense.
What you
But
think,
go
C.
ahead.
Campbell?
Well, I'm gonna put it to you like this. I don't normally get up anyway on Black Friday, so they ain't get my money no way. So, that's just my personal opinion on it. But do I think boycotting Black Friday will have an impact? It can show the economy that that the black consumer is concerned about where his money goes or her money goes, and the impact in terms of the quality of life we have in this country. So it can make a voice, but I don't think that is going to be the protest that's going to push us to move forward where we need to go.
Let me clarify myself, and then I'll be quiet. For clarification, I do believe that there needs to be an economic boycott to show the power that African Americans hold. Right. So I think that I'm not an advocate of the protest anymore. I think the protests have become archaic. I think they're dinosaur. I think they're old school, and I think that during the civil rights movement, that was the best way to mobilize and to make a statement. But I think that if a group of people that disagree with the verdict want to join together, regardless of color, because I'm not singling out African Americans. I'm saying those that disagree with the verdict want to mobilize. I do believe that an economic, some type of economic constraint or some type of economic movement is the way to go. I made a statement on one of the podcasts that if you was to take the total summation of African Americans, it'll be like the 16th most wealthiest nation based on how much we spend. So I agree that the economics is the next way to go to make a point. But whoever came up with the idea of Black Friday, they just wasn't thinking, because that's the day that you're supposed to go out and spend, because that's the day where you get the most sales. And that's just being smart. So
No, I really think if we're going to do anything, we need to defeat the stereotype. To me, that's the thing that needs to be addressed. And to defeat the stereotype, you have to get into the mind of your enemy. How does your enemy see you, so that you can turn that image around instead of feeding into it through the looting, the boycott thing? I honestly don't believe it's going to happen. Enough people are not going to join forces to boycott. So we can just, move along past that one. But the main thing that I feel that we have to do as a race is to say, okay, this is the perception of Black people, and what are we going to do to go educate the younger population so that we can change that perception, so that hopefully we can say the next time, okay, you can't point your finger and say whatever all the remarks were that they used this time.
See, you make a great point. Excellent point. But the problem is this: in order to fulfill your promise and your wish and your hope, you got to have a leader. And so the issue is that there's not one united voice to make that. See, the Army don't have that problem, because the Army got different levels that determine the direction the group gonna go. See, we got people, and see, I learned this, and I'm gonna be quiet because y'all done got me preaching. See, I learned this when I went to a summit at Texas Southern University. That's in the third ward of Houston, Texas. And I went to that summit, and they was having a summit on the Black America. And when I went to that, it was hosted. MSNBC was putting this on, and they had a few panelists on the panel. But from attending that summit, that's when I came to the realization that the fight for Black America is not racism; it's classism. It's the have and the have not. And until we get somebody that understands that can lead this New South movement and lead this movement, that's the reason why I keep trying to tell C. Campbell it's not about racism. It's not racism, because racism is only See, that's what the top 1% of the African American leaders want to push, because that's where they trying to get to that level. The fight on racism is a commercial war. That's how people making money. When you can put on a sitcom about racism, then that's how they continue to make money annually. See, the real conversation is classism, when you can have leaders that are leading a group of people, regardless of color, about getting the same economic empowerment that the haves have. That's the true war.
Okay. I don't think you can have a conversation without talking about all those things, because the racism component is real. Racism is used to withhold certain services. Racism dictates the level of care that people get in the healthcare system. It plays a role in that. Racism plays a role. It does, dog. It is racism, man. When you automatically write somebody off when they come in your office in terms of what type of care that you're going to give them because of your color, and doctors do that because they associate a black face with a person that's going to be on Medicaid without even knowing the person. They're going to associate that person with being of a certain economic class, and that's going to dictate what type of care. It's going to dictate what type of care they give, because they feel like that black person can't understand what's going on anyway, because they come from a certain place. I have a situation when I go to work, the people will make the statement, "Oh, you dress so nice. You dress so nice every day." This is the first time you've seen a black person dress up. Oh, because I'm dressed up, or because I'm dressed up nice, I'm homosexual. So that's racism, dog. That's racism when you draw lines based off of what you see. That's racism, and it affects judgment and it affects whether persons give other people jobs. Race is a factor. So you can't have this conversation without acknowledging the fact that it's real. But as far as what we can do, economics is our actionable item. And I think with the no Black Friday is a baby step. We keep talking about we need to do something economically. But ain't nobody got nothing that we can do economically. This is one thing to where we take a baby step and say, okay, we're going to put it on Instagram. Let's see how people respond to it. And then you build on it. You identify those corporations that are linked to certain ideologies and certain political parties that are pushing legislation that degrades us or is disadvantageous to us. But this is a baby step. We got to do something. We can't just sit back and keep talking about we got to do something, but then we don't have anything. This is an actionable item. This is something that you do, and you grow on top of that. You do something else. Okay?
So this is where we disagree. Let me ask you two questions. Number one,
I'm not.
Are you shopping on Black Friday?
I'm not.
Okay, then what day you gonna shop to get your Christmas present?
I might not shop, and if I do shop, I'll be shopping on something like Amazon or something like that. I won't be shopping at no local store that I know treats black people a certain kind of way.
You still got Black Friday on Amazon.
For me, it's going to be an evaluation of these corporations. When I'm paying for stuff that are not necessities, who is my money go to? Who are they linked to? And you can find this information. And I'm going to go to somebody else. I'm going to go to somebody that stands on the same ideals that I stand for. It don't have to be necessarily white or black. It could be something along the lines of education or women's rights. I'm going to go to them versus somebody that I know is supporting the Tea Party. It's going to require that level of research and sniffing this thing out. And you talked about the Army. Yeah, the Army might have a top general that's giving down the commands, but you got platoons and units that are local, that are small groups that are led by one person. We are those unit leaders in your street, your block, your neighborhood. You taking this information and you disseminating it to the people in your church. You get them straight. That's all we got to worry. Myself personally can't worry about saving however many million black people that is in the world.
Let me say one thing to Kevin. I'm gonna be done. Two things. What you just said, BG. See, to me, right when I say racism is an ideology, it's a target. It's a moving target that you are.
I didn't say chase. I didn't say chase that target. I'm just saying recognizing that it's real. You can't deny that it's real. If you deny that it's real, you setting yourself up for further failure. You got to know the enemy that you playing against and know the tricks that they use.
Well, let me finish. Racism. When I say racism is ideology, that means that you are chasing something that's not even able to be solved. So my point is this: economics, classism, that's something that can be addressed. Education is something that can be addressed. Those are two tangible targets that if we as if the right leaders, whoever those individuals are, would address those situations, then this whole this whole debate about whatever will be addressed. So here's no problem. The current leaders are the current people that try to lead different groups, African American culture. They got money. They're in the halves. So they're gonna continue to chase this idea of this racism ideology because that ain't nothing but a commercial way to get more money. So what I'm suggesting is that you chase the economics and the classism and you chase the education because chasing an ideology will never be anything that you can find and you can conquer. See, the people that's supposed to be the current leadership, they got money. You understand what I'm saying? They have a mean. They're in the halves. So because they in the halves, I'm gonna continue to fight an ideology because if me fighting that ideology ain't gonna do nothing but put more halves in my pocket.
So you encounter a racist police officer. What you gonna do to get out of that? What you gonna do to get out of that situation? You gonna show them your money?
That's education. What
do you? Okay, well, what's the education? What are you educating on?
I'm making educate how to address that police officer.
What are you addressing him? What are you changing?
I'm teaching young people how to address that police officer. We did a whole show episode on.
You're having to educate that kid against the actions of a racist police officer.
PG, we did a whole episode on how to address the police officer.
But you're not answering the question. You're having to educate the kid against the actions of a racist officer, because the education that you got to give a kid to combat a racist officer is not the same conversation that you're going to have with a kid that's embracing an officer that's not moving from a racist point of view, because the interaction is going to be totally different.
Well, first off, I'm going to tell the young person what we talked about in our episode on the value of the black man or how to address a police officer. So that's what I'm going to tell him. So that's the education. So again, my personal opinion is that it's twofold: education and economics. See, to sit up here and continue to talk about racism, I can't control a racist thought, but I can control the economics and the education. And that's what I'm trying to continue to teach and push, is that we need to focus on the educating of young people. And I think Trisha talked about that, which is the right perspective, and the economics. And I'll be quiet because C. Campbell had a point too.
Well, I just kind of want to just address a couple of things, in y'all's kind of dialogue back and forth. First is the leadership issue. I think both of y'all, I think we all agree, there's a lack of leadership in terms of just having somebody to pinpoint, or a few people to pinpoint at leading this thing and leading us into, or even leading ourselves into the solutions that we need to get to. I had to keep quoting him, but I think Chris Cuomo said it best. He said there's a vacuum of leadership in Ferguson right now. But I think there's a vacuum of leadership in the black community overall right now. And in some cases, there's a vacuum of leadership in every community that we see, in terms of, as BG pointed out, the economic situations, the cost of education, the quality of life for people, there's a vacuum of leadership all around, and I think we really need to address that fact too, because until we can really address the leadership issues, we're still going to be bumping our heads and going around in circles. You look at the book, The Art of War. It's an ancient text. It talks about strategy. It talks about how you address the people. It talks basically about you got to have something won before you even put boots on the ground. And I think in the situation that we're talking about, you look at Ferguson, you look at the situation for Black people in this country, we're not taking the time to sit down and strategize like we used to. We don't have the war won. We don't have the battle won because we haven't taken time to look at the strategy. As the book says, you got to evaluate the terrain. You got to evaluate the weather, the condition of the people. Are they poor? It's like are they poor? Are they rich? How are you going to address the situation? Until you take all factors into consideration, we're still going to be where we are right now, with no solutions and people just frustrated and mad and angry. So we got to look at the leadership, number one. In terms of the whole thing about changing the dynamic of the country, changing the dynamic way people think in the economy, like I said, I don't think you can separate the race and the classism thing. I think, yes, like you said, Ty, economically, we have to be able to make an impact. We have to be able to change that. Education, we got to change that gap. We got to be able to close it. When you look at schools' admission standards, when your admission standards have scores at a 20-something, 22, between 20 and 22 and 24 for most schools to get in, or you look at the average of an ACT score for a Black person in this country, and it's only somewhere sitting around the 14, it's already set up for you to fail. I mean, and I say it's not just Black folks on the school in there. I mean, it's other races and ethnicities too. But you look at Hispanic folks, you even looking at some of the white people, they're not scoring it on average from a national basis. So it's like you got to look at other factors in terms of how do we bridge that gap. So there, but at the same time, it's like when you, I don't know if y'all watched the link that I sent y'all today, the dare to disagree. If you watch what the lady that was giving a lecture said about disagreement, she said, corporations, countries, things like that, large entities make a lot of decisions that affect a lot of people. But she said the problem is corporations themselves, in terms of the context of a corporation as an entity or a country or a citizen, they don't think. It's the people within them that think and say it's the people. When people start to disagree and say, hey, we're not doing something the right way, yeah, you may get ridiculed. There may be a fear of ridicule. But what she said is we have to sometimes get away from the natural instinct to always want to be close to something, to be liked by somebody, or to always be the same, because when we can actually find somebody we can disagree with, or we can say, hey, this ain't the right way to do it. She gave an example of a guy that worked for a medical devices company. She said this guy figured out the device they were selling was going to end up harming more people than it was going to help more people. He said, but now he was about to quit his job, a job that he loved. But she said the thing about him that made him different was it was the pressure of being silent that overtook him and said, hey, we got to address this. And say he eventually came out as being a leader in that company because he said, okay, we need to actually help some people. So I think that's the thing too, is we got to have more people that's going to be able to stand up and say, hey, I'm going to disagree with you on this standpoint because, and like in America, until we start having this conversation about race, until we say, hey, I'm going to disagree with you on this because yeah, it's an economic thing. You talk about power, you talk about all this, but hey, yeah, racism is still sitting there slapping you in the face every day until we start to address it. We ain't going to change that. So that's my thought on that. But, the thing is, like you said, it's the value of people. And until we can start to value each other as human beings, and until we look at the value of a life, whether that's in economic dollars, whether that's in education, when you can value me as an equal person, we're not going to get past it. I mean, I agree with BG in the fact of I deal with it every day, working at the institution where we all graduated from. Like the other day, I just gave some money to this philanthropy program. I did it in honor of my grandmothers. They did a calendar for us. We had an event. They asked us to sign some calendar. I had, somebody come up and ask me to sign a calendar. I put my name. I put 04, the year I graduated. But the question was like, 04, what position did you play? So why is there a Black man that goes to, a college campus has to always be carrying the ball? But hey, again, that's entertainment value. That's to me to what you talk to, Tyke. So I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But it's like we have to change a systematic view of how we continue to value each other. It's like I'm not a value if I didn't play ball. I'm not of value sometimes if I don't dress a certain way, talk a certain way. It's like people don't understand that we live in a double-minded world each and every day. This what a lot of people, I say not people that are racist, but sometimes people are ignorant of the fact because they say they don't have to live it. But each and every day we live in the world, we have to be conscious of how we say things, how my facial expressions are, my attitude. When people say, hey, I just never, thought to hang out with you. And and a lot of people, some people saying that not because they're saying, hey, we just this person, but I know some people in the back of their mind, what sometimes people really saying, hey, is like, I just never really hung out with a black person like this before. I mean, I never really had to spend time with somebody. So there are still things that we got to address. And like I said, race does play a big factor in it. And that's just the nitty gritty, the dirty of it, however you want to call it, however you want to slice it, is still a major point. Yes, classism. Yes, economic empowerment, yes, education is comes along with that and empowering people, but still, race is still kind of like that monkey that's still on your back. No matter where you go with those issues, it's still going to be there. And so until we continue to sit down and talk about it intelligently, until we can get people encouraged to talk about it, until we can get folks in every form of government to talk about it and the education system to talk about it and say, hey, this is a problem. It's real. And until we do it, man, we're still going to be in a lot of the same boats, man.
I still think, for me, I still think a lot of it goes back to perception. And the number one thing that I hear over and over again in media are the comments that are basically dehumanizing black people. So for me, I don't understand, why do we keep feeding into these stereotypes? And that's my thing. It's all about presentation. And as far as having the race dialogue, you can talk to people all day, but no one's going to take time to understand you until there's a relationship first. And in order to get to the higher levels to have a relationship, you have to be able to present yourself a certain way where they can't say they feel threatened or, that you're being overly aggressive. So you have to learn how to better present yourself so you can even get in the circle to have the conversation. So I think a lot of this just goes back to presentation and just really focusing on the young people and educating them on how to better present themselves so that they're not pointed at with these resounding stereotypes.
BG. Let's go ahead and summarize the thing, but I do want to do a part two kind of around this whole idea of racism and that, because I really believe that there's some different opinions surrounding racism and this whole idea of racism. And I think that I tend to agree with Trisha personally, and I think that what she is saying and presenting is accurate. So I think that when we get a good day and a good time frame, I kind of want to readdress this topic and really take a deeper dive into it.
This is real good. And the important thing that I would want every listener to acknowledge and to appreciate is that you can take all these perspectives and create that hodgepodge that we need in terms of how we approach the days going forward. It don't have to be one way or another. It's just that you look at, she says, the presentation, and C. Campbell was talking about having a conversation to alleviate some of that ignorance that we have cross cultures and within our own self. But for me, in terms of actionable items, the first thing is going to be us regaining pride in ourselves and who we are and where we come from and what our people would want for us right now. We got to kind of look within ourselves and build each other up as a community, build ourselves up independently and look at ourselves in a better light. And when you start looking at yourself better, then you present better. Not so much trying to present for somebody else, but just living up to a high standard for yourself, and then it'll reflect upon other people. So we got to get back to having some pride in being who we are and where we come from and representing that everywhere we go. We try to represent our hometowns and our families to the best that we can. Not so much for acclaim and all that kind of stuff, but it just feels good to be able to do that. So taking pride in where we come from. And then, of course, the other actionable thing is the empowerment. Being in a place of self-sufficiency to where we can take care of ourselves, our communities can sustain themselves. And we're going to have to restructure and build that because that's going to be new for us. So in the next years to come, that's got to be the focus in terms of what can I do in my immediate community to sustain it. That if something were to happen over here, if they were to decide that they were just going to disconnect themselves from my block, how are we going to sustain ourselves? Where are we going to get our food from? How are we going to educate our youth? How are we going to transport ourselves from one place to another? Being self-sufficient and being in a mode of empowerment and sustainability, because if we don't care about ourselves, you better believe that don't nobody else care. So those are the things that I feel like is empowerment economically, being informed, being knowledgeable, and putting ourselves, when it comes down to getting careers, and going down occupational paths that are going to provide for us. And it don't always have to be with a degree, a 4-year degree or something like that. We also got to start talking about entrepreneurship and trades. We got to encourage kids to go and do auto mechanic stuff and plumbing, because you can come out with that paperwork and start your own business and make your own money. So we got to encourage those type of things and not talk down when a kid says he want to go into welding or brick masonry, because those things there's going to be a need for them in those positions. And so we just got to be more open-minded and be more encouraging of the people in our community.
I think that this is the perfect conversation that kind of displays and demonstrates the various opinions, various perspectives, but the same passion for change. I think that we all are an example of what hashtag New South movement is really about. And that's really about changing from the status quo and really realizing what the next steps are for the current generation, our generation, and the generations to come. And to be quite frank, I think this is the changing of the guards, and I think you can tell that from today's conversation, that there's a changing of the guards. There's a new perspective. We're more educated. We have more exposure to what's going on in the world, and I think there's a passion for people being tired of what's happening and looking for a change. And I think that this conversation, this kind of round table, even though we all had different perspectives and various opinions, I think we all have the same passion to see something different. And I think conversations like this is what's going to push the culture forward. And to be quite frank, me having the privilege of living in the East Coast, I've kind of developed a different perspective when it comes to racism and when it comes to just black versus white, for lack of better words. And I think that this idea of racism is a topic that we really need to address as part of what you and I are doing. And so that's one thing that I would like for us to continue this conversation, and I would like to continue with this same group, because I think this group kind of have various opinions, and I think that that's what needs to be pushed forward. So with that being said, I mean, I thought it was a good conversation. To summarize, I think that we need to look for new, fresh ideas, new, fresh perspectives, and new leadership. And not to disagree or not to downgrade the current leadership, but just to understand that this is a new trend. This is just all new. Like, everything is new, right? With the whole social media and with the whole new issues that we are facing, I just think that some new leadership needs to be born. So, C. Campbell, Patricia, any lasting thoughts?
I'm done.
Did a good job. Appreciate you joining us
Thank
today and sharing your thoughts and your opinions with us. We really appreciate it. People appreciate it too. We should do this again sometime. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
What's up, Ty? Yeah, man. Only thing I'm gonna close with, man. After I put this out there on social media earlier today. But I said, I spent a lot of time last night just observing, meditating, and praying, and then I get up every morning. And, I read my devotions and I try to just spend time, with my Creator, with the Almighty every morning. And it seems like, no matter what, and one thing what people forget sometimes is truly the omnipotence of God, and kind of He can bring you something. He knows right what we need when we need it. And this morning's devotional was titled God's Promised Protection. It's very quick, very short, but God's Promised Protection. And what scriptural base was coming out of Psalms 91:4, and he said, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. And what the writer says, it says the scripture above is both gentle and powerful. It portrays God as having feathers and wings, both of which provide gentle protection. It also talks about a shield and a rampart. A rampart is an embankment or a wall that's meant to protect. There will always be times in our lives when we feel fear or hopelessness. But it's during these times we must put our trust in God. It may seem as if the weight of doubt has surrounded us, but if we put our trust in God, He will not let us down. I think that's just how I kind of summarize today and what I was feeling is that, no matter what we're going through, we can disagree on subjects. We can all look at it from different perspectives, but at the end of the day, you got to have some firm and foundation of faith to stand on. If you can't do that, nothing's going to change. So I think we just got to learn to trust in Him no matter what. That's my thought.
See, Cam, how can people reach you?
Man, they can reach me tight. Appreciate that, man. They can reach me at C. Frank Campbell on Twitter. Also the same thing at C. Frank Campbell on Instagram. Same thing. Facebook, Charles Campbell is out there. So if you just want to hit me up, I'm there. So look for me out there. And I try to put some out there positive for the people. So,
hey man, my brother, he a rapper now. How many followers you got, dog?
Man, I got a couple thousand on Facebook, and a few hundred on Instagram.
We trying to get him to 1,000. So y'all hit my boy up. Y'all hit my boy up on the IG.
Trisha, can the people reach you?
I am not on social media.
Me neither. I'm anti-social media.
Me too.
No,
he used to be on there, y'all. Don't let it fool y'all.
No, they ain't all the way through.
I'm anti-social media.
Well, I've always been anti. So you can
She
reach
ain't
me
got
through
nothing,
Brian.
dog. She ain't got nothing.
Hey, Ty, can I say something for the Auburn folks real quick?
Man, what you finna say?
I know Ty gonna disagree with me on no matter what, but no, I was gonna tell the people, man, like especially for the folks in Alabama, tomorrow night there's gonna be a documentary shown on Alabama Public Television about James Owen, who was the first black scholarship player recruited to play football in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. And it was done by Tom Gossam, also the first black athlete to graduate from Auburn. And it's going to be shown tomorrow night on APT at 7:30 and again at 9:30. But there'll be several showings throughout the month of December. So if you got PBS or you're in Alabama, it'd be a good film to check out from a just historical perspective, but also in kind of in the same vein of what we've been talking about today. So
What's the title of it again?
the title of the movie is Quiet Courage.
See, Cam, it may not even go out until 2 weeks from now.
It don't matter. They can check it out in December.
So you talking about tomorrow? Tomorrow might be 2 weeks from now.
Well, the people, whenever they hear it, look for Quiet Courage, man. Look for it.
Rookie.
Yeah, he learned.
Hey, man, I'm out here on this thing, man.
Yeah, you're a rookie. BG. I can.
Yeah, people can get with us at FREELUNCH Podcast on IG, on Twitter, FREELUNCH Pod C, and stop by the blog site, freelunchpodcast.blogspot.com for blogs and podcasts. Doc, I appreciate you. You did a great job moderating, my brother.
It was okay. I appreciate the love, but I struggled with Divine for the day because I had several.
You always have several.
I almost did a melody.
Go for it.
I thought about Tupac and changes.
Go for it.
I ain't gonna do it.
Do it for the man.
I ain't gonna do it.
I thought about a little Bill Weathers, a little Lean on Me.
We need that.
I thought about a little Kurt Franklin. There's something about the name.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, what was on my heart and what was on my mind was something really and I could have summarized it with just the name of Jesus, because I think at the end of the day, you know, it's a lot going on in Ferguson. It's a lot surrounding Mike Brown, and it's a lot of things that are happening in that city. And I think that at the end of the day, people just need to look to Jesus and look to the higher power for the answer. And so I'll leave it at that.
Amen.
FREELUNCH Podcast, we out.
Sorry, you gotta pardon me. I'm speaking it awkwardly. Charles Barkley, they ain't biting. I'm getting that green broccoli. Properly giving props to the problem, fulfill prophecy. It gotta be better than that. It gotta be obsolete. Obviously, niggas rolling the dice, and this ain't Monopoly. My purpose was to do it on purpose. Fucking apology.